No, I'm talking about Yolanda. You ready? I'm not. Where's my paper at? Okay, here we go. The February 20th, 2025 hearing for the Planning and Land Development Regulation is now called to order. And if I could have you silence any audible devices that you may have. And if you could please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank all of you for being here this morning. And Ms. Summers, could I please have a roll call?
Good morning. Ms. Craig? Here. Mr. Sixma is absent. Mr. Patterson? Not present. Ms. Shelley? Here. Mr. Costa?
Here.
Mr. Mills?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Summers. Okay, let me take care of a few items here. This morning, we do have variances that you may want to consider. It takes 4 positive votes to pass any of the variances. We only have 4 members here this morning out of 7. So if you'd like to continue your case, you may do so. And we'll go ahead and push that forward to our next meeting. But that would be an option you need to consider. When it comes time for yours to be heard, if you'll let us know at the beginning, we will go ahead and continue. Or you can let us know by a raise of hands if you'd like to do that before we get the meeting going. But I just want you to realize you got to have 4 positive votes to approve a variance, and there's only 4 of us here today. Okay? We may have another member coming in. I don't know if he will be here in time your case is being heard, but I am giving you that option. Okay? Okay, we do have minutes to discuss from January 16th, 2025. Any discussion on those minutes? From Ms. Craig. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We also have a revision to the October 17th, 2024 minutes and for the ordinance O-25003. Any discussion on that revision? Okay. I'll entertain a motion. Pardon me?
I move to accept.
Okay. Do I have a
Second.
I got a motion to accept the revision to the October 17th, 2024 minutes for the case of O-25003 from Ms. Craig and a second from Mr. Costa. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay. If anyone would like to speak for or against any of the cases being heard today, if I could please get you to fill out a form at the back of the dais and give it to Ms. Summers to my immediate left. And we will be limiting you to a 3-minute time limit for those comments. And after the comments have been heard, I will give the applicant an opportunity to address any concerns the speakers have and answer any questions the commissioners may have. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Soria for legal comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and this is for members of the public and any applicants, that decisions by this body on special exception cases and cases which rezone real property from one classification to another pursuant to the zoning ordinance are recommendations only to the county council and do not constitute a final hearing. New evidence may be introduced at the county council public hearing. However, decisions on variances made by this body constitute final action subject to an appeal to the county council. And what this means is that no new evidence may be presented at the time of the county council public hearing on the appeal. An aggrieved party that appeals such a decision is confined to the record made before this body. Hearings by this body on rezonings, special exceptions, and variances are quasi-judicial in nature, meaning that this body is acting more like a court and must take into account all oral, written, or demonstrative evidence presented. Their decisions on these cases must be based on competent substantial evidence in the record. Competent substantial evidence has been defined as that evidence a reasonable mind would accept to support a conclusion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Soria. And while on legal comments, I'd like to ask the commissioners to disclose for the record any ex parte communications that have occurred before or during the public hearing at which a vote is to be taken on any quasi-judicial matter. And I'll start with my immediate right, Ms. Craig.
None.
None.
And I have none. Okay. Before we get started this morning, I want to take up a little bit of housekeeping here. I know in the past I have not requested that you hit your request to speak button when it comes to that time you'd like to make a comment. And because we do have, in April, we're going to be having a full board here. So I'm going to ask that we start doing that. It makes it a lot easier on me to keep things going smoothly. So if you don't mind, just hit your request to speak button and I'll have you recognized. And if I don't, you can throw something at me, okay? Okay. We do have some items to be withdrawn. Z24016. Ms. Smith, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, sir. This applicant was looking to rezone their property to subdivide it. She asked to continue the item so she could consult an attorney and was going to come back. She has consulted her attorney and decided to withdraw the application.
Okay. And because they're withdrawn, we do not need a vote on that. Is that right, Mr. Soria?
I think because it's been noticed, because it's been noticed, we do need a vote to accept the withdrawal.
Okay.
So withdrawal, continuance.
This is a withdrawal.
Yeah, this.
Full withdrawal?
Yes, full withdrawal. So they can come back and with another application
All right,
if
in
they
that-
so choose.
In that case, I'll make a motion on Z-24-016 to approve the withdrawal. from
Second.
this.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor to approve the withdrawal for Z24016 from Mr. Costa and a second for Ms. Shelley. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we do have some unfinished old business, so we'll get started. And Ms. Shelley, could you read the first case in, please?
Yes, sir. Case number V-25-006, variances to the minimum yard requirements on prime agriculture A1 zoned property.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. And let me see who this is. Ms. Smith, this one is yours.
Yes, sir. The applicant's requesting 7 variances. This is a 1.05 acre parcel in Pearson, Florida. It's zoned A1, which is prime agriculture. They're looking to build a single-family home, a pool, a detached garage, a pole barn, and a workshop. Variance 1 and 2 are for the single-family residence. Variance 3 is for the garage. Variance 4 and 5 are for the pole barn. And variance 6 and 7 are for the workshop. This is a vested parcel. It's called Myers Unrecorded Number 6 Subdivision. There is a mobile home on the property that they will be removing to build their new home. The A1 setbacks only allow for a 15-foot by 170-foot buildable area, as you can see on the screen, and you can't fit anything in that area. Access to the site is from Harper Road on the left-hand side of the page via an easement to the west side of the property. The parcel to the east is not vested, so the proposed workshop that they're looking at, Yolanda, can you go to the next page? In the lower right corner is not blocking any legal easements. And we do recommend approval of all 7 variances, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Any questions for staff? Hearing none, is the applicant present? You would like to come forward, please? Good morning. Could I get your name and address for the record?
Your mic's off.
Okay, is the mic on there? Is it green over there? Give me hit my button here, Yolanda, and see if that's causing it. Because I have no, okay. Okay, now try it.
Hello?
There
Okay.
you go. That's what I was saying. I told you earlier I saw that. Okay. I got a magic button back here. If I could get your name and address again for the record.
Okay, my name is Jacqueline Cortez Cosio,
Mine is Eloy Mondragon Santana Jr.
and then the address is 1235 Harper Road, Pearson, Florida, 32180.
Okay, you've heard the staff report, and you heard what I said at the beginning of the meeting. You
Yes,
have to
sir.
have all 4 of us.
Mhm.
And for those of you in the audience that have ones coming up, if you, before we get into reading yours into the record, if you decide that you want to do that after we hear this case, I'll ask again. If not, we're going to proceed. Okay. You've heard the staff report. Anything you'd like to add to it?
Not that I know.
No, not right now.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Okay, we don't have any questions, so we'll see where this goes, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll be glad to
Okay,
make a motion.
I'm going to close the floor for public participation. Do we have any public participation?
No, sir.
Do we sit
Okay.
down or?
All right, Ms. Shelley, go ahead. You can
Uh,
have a seat.
I'll be glad to make a motion that we approve variance -25-006, the variance to the minimum yard requirements on prime agriculture A1 zoned property at 1235 Harper Road, Pearson.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor to approve V 25006 from Ms. Shelley and a second from Mr. Costa. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Hey, Ms. Shelley, could I get the next? Oh, is there anyone that would like to continue their case? Okay. If you want to come forward. Okay, which case is yours, ma'am?
It's the first one on new business, V 2510.
Okay. B 2510.
Yep.
And would the next meeting be sufficient for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Smith, is there an issue with that?
No, sir, that will be fine.
Okay.
We do have a member of the public that would like to speak.
You do have a member of the public?
I do.
Okay.
Being continued.
Okay. I'm gonna give them an opportunity to speak.
It would
I'm gonna-
just be on whether or not to continue it. You can't bring up the actual item itself because you're just going to continue the item.
So we're not gonna listen to the.
Mm-mm.
No, you can, but the discussion on what is whether or not to continue the item to the March 20th PLDRC meeting is what the proposal is, rather than the substance of the actual variance itself.
Got it, okay. Okay. Well, okay, okay, we're here, she wants to continue it to the March, what was that?
March 20.
March 20th?
So you need a motion.
Yes.
I make a motion on case V-25-010 to continue it to the March 20th PLDRC meeting.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor to continue the V-25010 to the March 20th meeting from Mr. Costa and a second from Ms. Shelley. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We'll hear your case on March the 20th,
Thank you.
okay? All right, and I need to make a comment here. Okay, we did have a speaker on that case, correct? Pardon?
He's okay with the continuance.
Okay.
He'll be back in March.
Okay, all right, that settles that. Okay, let's get back on track here. Ms. Shelley, could I get the next case in the old unfinished business, please?
Yes, sir. Case number V-25-007, application requesting variances to minimum yard requirements on, and accessory dwelling unit ADU regulations on urban single-family residential R3s.
3 sheds in the northeastern corner. The proposed ADU is to be located in the southeastern corner of the property. The requirements for an ADU is to meet the same setback requirements for the principal structure. Staff's recommendation for the proposed ADU is to deny variances 1 through 3, as the ADU can be relocated and redesigned to meet the ADU regulations. However, should the PLDRC find that the applicant has provided competent substantial evidence to support approval of the variances, there are 2 conditions provided for consideration. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. Any questions for staff?
Nope.
Is the applicant present? You would like to come forward, please? Good morning. Could I get your name and address for the record?
Lorena Grimaldo, it's 309 Cortez Avenue, it's Leon Springs, Florida, 32130.
Okay, you've heard the staff report. Anything you'd like to add to it?
Just because we wanted the setbacks on the 10 feet and the regulations is because if we follow the 20 and the 8 feet required, it's gonna be so, our home is like, look how it's set back in the backyard is not flat, so it has like a bound. So if we do the regulations as they say, the house is, the DUI, the ADU is gonna be really close to our home, and it'll be like a hazard. And then the other side, we'll have to knock down a tree that we have there that we don't want to cut down. That's why we're looking for the approval of the variances.
Okay. All right. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
I have a question. Okay. Yes. My question regards, as noted in the staff report, your ADU is going to be greater than 50% of the primary residence. And as I had read through your comments about your reason for requesting it, that did not come up in your comments.
No.
So I was just wondering why.
We can work with that if, because it's only like it's 51% greater. It's like an inch, I don't know, according to the sizes that we got. So we can, even if we can do it smaller if needed. Like,
So it's very close.
it's like
Okay.
1% above the.
In
How many
staff, you were-
square feet are we talking about?
It says 875 in the report.
No, over the limit.
Over the limit, about 18.5 square feet.
18? 1/8?
1/8.
So
Okay.
If
Thank
I
you.
may,
We're
Mr.
good.
Costa,
If that had
it's
been, I just
close.
didn't see those numbers in here, so I
Yeah,
wanted
it's
a
just
clarification.
close.
It's one thing if
Thank
it's
you.
50 or 100.
I'm
but
good.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, we will be working on changes to our ordinances to allow for an administrative change that is that small.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. That helps. Thank you very much.
I do have another question for the applicant. Can you put up The picture on page 10 of 17, the upper picture.
Because I can't flip back. I can't.
Can we zoom in on that at all? There we go. So my question to you is, looking at that picture on the screen, so the ADU is off to the upper, the top corner up there. That's where you're putting it up in that location, correct?
Other side.
The other side. Okay,
Yeah,
over
that
here.
corner,
All
yeah.
right.
Because we have a shed there where the water pump is on the other side,
Okay.
so that's why we couldn't put it there.
So that small structure that's directly behind your house, that right there, what is?
That's a dog pen.
I'm sorry.
A dog pen.
A dog pen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's-
Okay. So we're putting it in that bottom corner then to avoid any, you said trees?
See, because we have that tree above it, like if you go a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
that's the tree. And if we do the 20 feet and it's gonna be very close to the corner of our room, which is that other side,
Mhm.
and then the tree will have to knock it down if we go. And there will be so little space because we've measured between where the corner of the ADU will be and our house.
Okay. Is this property on septic?
Yes, the septic tank's on their side. It's like,
On the other side of the house?
no, like right, like where she has her little arrow.
Okay,
a little
gotcha.
bit down.
All right, so you're right there.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, I just wanted to clarify on that one then. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, we don't have any more questions for you. Do we have any public participation? Okay,
No, sir.
we don't have any public participation, so you can have a seat. We're going to close the floor for public participation and open up for commission discussion or a motion. Go ahead.
That we approve case number B-25-007. They're requesting the variances to the minimum yard requirements on ADUs in the R3 zone property.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor. Do we have any conditions on this, Rick?
Yes, there's two conditions.
Two staff conditions.
Subject to the two staff conditions.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's go back to that. Accessory structures.
That's why I need a paper copy.
And what are those conditions?
Accessory structures. What accessory structures are we talking
They're
about
in
here?
there. Yes, see,
Oh,
you
the
keep
plastic
flipping
shed.
around.
That's the only one I'm thinking that can be.
Would you put the page of the conditions on our screens, please? Thank you.
Yes,
It's hard to, without the paper to flip around, it's hard to
Hmm?
find those conditions. They should be listed in the staff report here.
Yes, on page 5.
There, okay. A little further, there, okay, it's one, is it one condition?
Two.
Two, okay.
I'm on 5 of 17. I show 2.
Are you looking for that accessory
There you go.
structure?
There it is,
Ms.
okay.
Costa?
Thank you.
The accessory structure, yeah. Which one is that?
Which one is that, Ms.
The only thing I
Ray?
see is this shed up here, but other than that, I don't see any.
Ms. Ray, you want to tell us which
I
that
d-
one
Yeah,
that
number
is?
2, what are those other
What is-
structures?
What is that structure you want to have removed? Is it that plastic shed?
So the applicants also own the parcel to the south. And there is, on our property appraiser's website, shows that the property is vacant. However, there is an accessory structure on that property, and that's just stating that that property will need to be, or that accessory structure will need to be permitted.
Well, it says removed, permitted. Okay, never mind. Removed or permitted. I didn't see the permitted part.
Okay.
Mr. Soria, can we tie another
was-
parcel in?
I was just gonna ask that
On
question.
a variance like that?
Yeah. They're
Well-
not combined.
So, this is a vacant parcel that is what, non-conforming? Yes. So, we usually use the rule of, that they have to be combined on, for vacant parcels that are legal non-conforming in use. So, This kind of says that they should do this, otherwise it is a code enforcement issue, because you would have accessory parcels without a primary.
Okay, so they pretty much have agreed to do this, in
Yes.
other words. Okay. So we won't worry about
All right. All right. I thought about to strike it, but
it. We don't
okay.
want
I need
to, we don't want to stir it up. Okay, we got it. Does that, or we still got the motion and it stands with the conditions,
With the
correct?
conditions, yes, sir.
Yep, the two
Okay.
conditions.
If I can remember who gave me the,
Motion, second.
got it. Okay. We got a motion from Ms. Shelley to approve variances 1, 2, and 3 on V 25007 with the 2 staff conditions. And a second from Mr. Costa. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, I hate to go back, but when we approved V 25006, I think there was one condition on that also, was there not, Ms. Smith? And I don't know if that got put in the record.
It was one condition.
Yeah, I don't think we discussed that condition in there. Can we open that back up, Mr. Soria?
Yes, you can.
For the purpose of adding the condition to that, okay.
It was a staff recommendation to approve anyways, but,
I can amend my motion
Yep.
to add the condition.
Well, there's a condition on
yeah,
that.
Right.
that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna open up the case V 25006 to add, for the purpose of adding the condition that we omitted in our first conversation. So, Ms. Shelley, if you'd like to,
Do you want me to make a totally new motion, or do you want me just
yeah,
to?
to add, you can make a motion to add the staff condition.
I move to add the staff, subject to the staff condition.
Second.
Okay. In reference to V 25006, we're making a recommendation to add we're adding the staff the one staff recommendation. A motion to do that for Ms. Shelley and a second for Mr. Costa. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Oh, you go away for 2 weeks, you get rusty, huh?
Here,
No, stay right there.
Variances for renovations for an existing single-family residence. Variance 1 is to reduce the west rear yard from 20 feet to 19.6 feet. Variance 2 is to reduce the east front yard from 25 feet to 20.1 feet. Variance 3 is to increase the maximum lot coverage from 35% to 39%. And variance 4 is to increase the maximum building height from 35 feet to 37.2 feet. When the residence was originally constructed in 2002, it slightly encroached into the rear yard setback. Variance 1 is to legitimize the location of the existing residence. One of the proposed renovations is to extend the entry of the home to provide better access for the proposed elevator. Variance 2 is to the proposed entryway. Within the R9 zoning, there is a maximum lot coverage of 35% and a maximum building height of 35 feet. With proposed renovations, the lot coverage will increase to approximately 39%. According to the applicant's submitted site plan, the residence will remain 3 stories, but will have a flat roof instead of a sloped roof. Building height is measured at the highest point of the flat roof, and according to the elevation plans, the new wall is the highest point on the roof at 37.2 feet. Within our code, solar panels, penthouses, and other similar accessory structures customarily required to extend above the roof level may extend an additional 25 feet above the maximum building height prescribed for the zoning classification. The penthouse shall not be used for purposes other than shelter of mechanical equipment or shelter of a vertical shaft opening in the roof, and the elevator tower can be considered a vertical shaft opening. Staff's recommendation for variance 1 is for approval, and variances 2 through 4 is for denial. However, should the PLDRC find that the applicant has provided competent substantial evidence to support approval of the variances, there is a condition provided for consideration. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. We have questions for staff. Mr. Costa,
Thank you.
we're going to skip this queue today because they're coming up as our David Santiago.
Oh, okay. They're coming up as, that's all right.
If we can get that
Oh.
adjusted for our
Yep.
meetings in the future.
Yeah, I don't want to be on
I don't
council.
know who's requesting. Somebody is.
So my question, my question, Ms. Ray, is on the denial of variance 3. That extra lot coverage is to accommodate the elevator shaft, is it not? Or am I
Yeah.
looking at this incorrectly?
It's the proposed entryway,
The-
and, yeah,
But it's combined, the entryway and the elevator shaft are together.
yes, sir.
All right, so by denying 3, is there a suggested alternative to locating that elevator shaft? I mean, could it go someplace else that potentially?
I would have to defer, you would have to defer that to the applicant because it's their engineering
Okay.
design.
All right. But there's no other, if I'm looking at the way this thing is designed, I don't see any other place to put it, so
Frank,
I don't think you can get away with, from variance 3.
I seem to remember there was something about it could be in the garage, I believe.
Yeah, we'll discuss that
Okay.
with the applicant when,
All right, that's fine. I'll wait for the
when
applicant
he
to come out.
comes forward.
That's
Any
fine.
other questions for staff? Okay, is the applicant present? Would you like to come forward, please? And if I could get your name and address for the record.
I'm Jonathan Fryerman, and I live at 501 Prairie Lake Drive, Fern Park, Florida.
Okay.
I'm Tim Perry. I'm the architect on this job, and my office is 235 South Maitland Avenue, Maitland, Florida.
Okay. You've heard the staff report and some of the concerns that Mr. Costa had, or is there anything you'd like to add to it?
Yeah, a couple of things on the thing, the elevator. That is the only location it can go feasibly to go on the house properly. The front entrance is pulled out so you can get access to the elevator from the inside. We do have some extra concrete here on the left side of the house going back that will be removed. That probably will bring this down to, I would say, half of that. So we'd probably be in the 37% range. And the elevator right now and that entry is on existing concrete that's there right now, like the old entry and driveway. So we're not really increasing the impervious area at all. In fact, by moving this sidewalk on the left side, we'll be reducing the existing impervious coverage.
So if I may, if I'm looking at this drawing correctly, that elevator then is accessible through the garage?
It's
on
through the front
on the ground
floor.
level,
Yeah.
right? Through the garage on the ground level, and then obviously into the house on the upper, the
Yes.
next 2 or 3 levels. And which sidewalk you say is potentially being removed?
Down the left side, there's an access. We're going to keep the walk down the right side of the house. But the concrete next to the house, there's like 2 to 3 feet on both sides that will be removed.
Mhm.
So that coverage is figured into that 39%. So it's 50 times 3.
Not to mention the air conditioning.
But we'll be removing their conditioning pads and putting them on the roof too. So we're going to be removing 300 feet of sidewalk will be removed.
Okay, and
I
that's
think
on,
that's going to bring us down.
and
right
looking at
into-
this picture, we're talking on the bottom the bottom of that picture where it
Yeah.
shows 3-foot concrete walk?
Yeah,
That's what we're
uh-huh.
talking about?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'm good.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant?
And yes, just a one, and
Ms.
the,
Shelley?
yes, please. Oh, sorry. On the roof,
Mhm.
the height, that's just on that elevator section. You're not raising the whole roof. It's
Right.
just that small portion.
Yes.
Thank
It's
you.
6 feet by 8 feet, get up and a walkout area.
Thank you.
And that was one of my questions. What's the current height at the building now?
It is 30. It's taller than that. It's the maximum height that is right now is 38 because it has a peaked roof on it. So, but the mean roof height was at 35. So we're
Okay.
actually, our knee wall is lower than the existing roof.
Okay, that's what okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Do we have any public participation forms on this one?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, we're going to close the floor for
Okay.
public participation,
you.
open up for commission discussion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we're closing the floor for public participation, open up for commission discussion. Any discussion on this here, or I'll take a motion.
Make a motion on case V-25-008, approve variances 1 through 4 with the one staff recommended condition.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion on the floor to approve variances 1, 2, 3, and 4 for case number V-25-008 with the one staff condition from Mr. Costa and a second from Ms. Shelley. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And then we have stricken 25010, so we'll
Mhm.
move right into V 25014.
Okay. One moment here. One four, got it. Okay. Case number V-25-014, variance to the accessory dwelling unit, ADU regulations on prime agriculture, A1, and forestry resource, FR zoned property.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Ms. Ray, this one's yours.
So the applicant is requesting a variance to allow an ADU to be greater than 50% of the living area of the principal structure at approximately 50.5%. The property is 40 acres and is currently developed with a 644 square foot mobile home that was built in 1984. The applicant is proposing to place a 1,280 square foot mobile home on the property and utilize that as a primary residence, intending for the existing mobile home to be converted into that ADU. As previously stated, the ADU is approximately 50.5% of the living area of the principal detached. Staff is working on a revision to our admin variance ordinance to allow small overages to be approved administratively. There are two letters of support in the report, and staff's recommendation is for approval. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. Any questions for staff? Hearing none, is the applicant present? Good morning, sir. Can I get your name and address for the record?
Damian Hughes, 1101 Buckles Road, Pearson, Florida, 32180.
Okay, you've heard the staff report. Anything you'd like to add to it?
No, sir, other than it's just 4 square feet.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Okay. We do have some public participation forms on this one, so we'll listen to those, and then once they've made their comments, bring you back for rebuttal.
All right, thank you.
Okay? Okay, this one here is the owner, Daniel Roche. Oh, okay. Rubbish. You're fine. All right. You want to state your name and address for the record?
Yes, it's Daniel Ravish, 1040 Buckles Road.
All right. And you had a comment you would like to add to this case?
Well, I'm all for people moving out, living the lifestyle that we live on Buckles Road. But there seems to be a lot of structures on this property and a lot of, there's multiple campers. There's campers that show up and then leave. There's a enormous camper that's probably 10 feet from Buckles Road right now that's been gutted and has the contents spewed out all over the lawn. I would love to see these folks build a house and or improve their living situation, but I'm just extremely concerned with the money that my family has invested at our place on Buckles Road, that there's just going to keep, there's just going to be more structures that show up. It's already looking that way now. I'm very concerned that we're going to end up with multiple families and multiple situations developing on this property.
Okay. You're truthfully, the variance, what we're discussing today, you're more or less looking at code violations. Is that not right, Mr. Soria? Well, that's legal.
Yes. So if there are, junk just gonna call it junk, that's, you can file a code enforcement complaint. We're going to, we'll send our code enforcement team out there, and see if any of the structures are in violation of our code, or if the structures are kind of a safety hazard, in which case, we'll take them through code enforcement. They may be required to remove the structure, or, if they fail to comply, the county will come in and remove the structure and put a lien on the property, for any uninhabitable, structures that are kind of a danger to persons. Kristen, can you answer? There's only one ADU allowed per parcel, correct?
Correct.
Right, so
Yeah.
this is, if they're requesting an ADU, that's it. They can't request another ADU.
Right.
Otherwise, they would have to rezone to some kind of multifamily zoning district, which is, they would have to come into compliance with the comp plan and the zoning. There are hurdles and barriers to prevent that. But if you are seeing a situation of dilapidated structures or dilapidated things, that can be handled by code enforcement.
Yeah,
But
and
we
I
are a
think-
complaint-driven response, so we need to have a complaint in order to go out there.
Yeah, I understand.
So I think what I'm trying to say here is that what we're looking at is the size of the ADU. And like Mr. Soria said, he's only allowed one. And so if there's other structures on the property that shouldn't be there, there'd be a code enforcement
Right.
situation.
Right.
So could we figure this in? We shouldn't, but, we should be just looking what the variance is consistent of, okay?
I understand.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Thank you, sir. And then I had a public comment from Mr. Jody Locks.
So my name is Jody Laux. I'm at 1021 Buckles Road.
Uh-huh.
Actually share part of the lake access area
Uh-huh.
with our neighbor. Just want to go on the record. I have the very similar concerns as Dan. These neighbors have been great neighbors. They're very nice people. They have great cows and animals on their property, and we love that. But we do have severe concerns of, keeping Buckles natural, keeping it nice. So we will be likely following the course of action to file the complaints properly. But we just wanted to make sure that we also went on the record. And there were a couple other neighbors that couldn't come, so they did ask us to come and represent them. So just want to make sure that we kind of go on the record that it's not just two people. There's four other neighbors that kind of felt the same way. So we'll ask them to follow that same course of action.
And Mr. Chair, I just want to say, because you said there are what sound like farm animals on the property, if they have an ag classification, if they're a bona fide farm, there's something called the Right to Farm Act, which the state has said, essentially we can't use any of our code enforcement powers if it's a functioning farm. They're allowed to exist. So to
Well, the farm animals aren't the problem.
Okay.
It's
Well,
the
it's-
RV and the garbage. We actually
Okay.
enjoy the farm animals. We love to see them out there. We want to encourage that.
Okay, Ms. Shelley,
Sure.
is your mic on?
Thank you. Are people living in these other units? What is,
Yeah, so
besides the prime, so there's the prime
Correct.
residence, and then there's other,
there was a camper, like a small older camper there that they fenced in an area, and there was a young couple living there with a dog coming and going for several weeks at a time. There was
So-
no sewer hooked up to this camper. It had water and power only. They left for a couple weeks and they came back for a couple of weeks. And then the older campers showed up on, the fence area of the road, and they started gutting that. So our concern is that it's going to end up being a campground.
Okay.
which
There we
again
go
would be
back
a-
again.
would
What
be a code
Yeah.
enforcement,
Yep.
yes, because
Isn't
it's
as I
not,
s-
that's not permitted.
said about the to the previous speaker, we're just looking at the variance for the size of the ADU. Any other thing, any other code violation would have to be taken up through code enforcement, okay?
Okay, we'll
I
do that.
appreciate you
Okay.
bringing that up. It's
Thank
very-
you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you very much.
Okay. Do we have any other public participation?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll have the applicant come back forward again, sir. you've heard the concerns of the neighbors, okay? And I think what they're pretty much saying is they're gonna put you on the spot and,
And I'm
You-
fine with that.
Okay.
One of the things I wanted to address real quick is
Uh-huh.
the camper that is moved up to the front right now. We
Yes.
fenced in an area so that we could clean out that RV. It has been on our property for 5 years now, on the back side of the property next to the ADU that'll be there. We have moved it up there because we needed a little bit of space to clean it out. And it's only been there for a couple weeks, and it will be cleaned out. It is not to live in. It is our camper. We needed the space to clean it out. I did have my niece and nephew staying on a piece of the land there in their camper for a couple months. And no, they weren't on a septic as far as that goes. They were on a holding tank, and they had water and ate until we were able to move them to somewhere else. So it was a temporary situation. The existing home that's there, the ADU, will not be a full-time residence, even though we are being allowed to have that as a full-time residence. Our main residence will be the one house that is coming in. That is our full-time residence. I have been in this neighborhood now for 8 years with no issues. So if my neighbors actually had a problem, I would have really liked to have them come to me on this, because I do know all my neighbors, and I have been there for 8 years. We maintain a working farm. We have cattle and we have horses. We also have a transportation business. So as they said with vehicles coming in and out, yes, I have a horse trailer that comes in and out of my property. I also have 2 flatbed trailers. I transport landscape materials. So those will be coming in and out of the property as well. But as far as a group of people or a bunch of people, or they're worried that this is going to turn into a big situation that it's not going to be that. That is not my intent ever. I love living in the country. I love living where we do. We all agree to live on Buckles for a reason, so we're away from people, and we try to make the best out of everything. It is a working farm, so of course there's going to be stuff that piles up for a little bit, cleans up, piles up for a little bit, cleans up. The RV, like I said, I am gutting it out so I can use it as my personal RV. So I have this stuff sitting there. It is inside a contained, fenced-in area, so it's not blowing out across the street. I'm not throwing it out on the road for anybody. I will take it to the dump. I'm trying to make sure that I have one load for a dump, and it will be gone. But that isn't for somebody to live on.
Okay, Mr. Costa?
Yep. Just want to confirm, you're on 40 acres, right?
Yes, sir.
Out in the country?
Yes, sir.
Live and let live. The new mobile that's coming, that's actually going to be the primary, even though it's showing here as an ADU.
Yes.
So the existing, well, then you're just going to flop them over, basically. The existing becomes the ADU, and the new one becomes your permanent residence. Okay. And you live there permanently, correct? It's not a part-time?
No, sir.
All right. Are you ag exempt?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I just did want to say, they made comments, but they said you were a good neighbor, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're
So
great
I'm just
neighbors.
saying, yeah.
I just wish they would have
I
come
don't
to
feel
me.
all this
Oh, no,
animosity. so.
I don't want any, not where we live, no ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Leave in peace.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, we're going to close the floor for public participation, up for commission discussion or motion.
Well, I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Mr. Costa.
Case V 25-014, make a motion to approve. There are no conditions.
Second.
Okay. I've got a motion on the floor from Mr. Costa to approve V 25014, and a second from Ms. Shelley. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Shelley, could I get the next case, please?
Yes, sir. It's coming. Okay. Case number V-25-
No, this is 0.
Oh, that was the one we just did.
That's the
Yep,
one we
yep,
just did.
we're now on the ordinance.
You're on the ordinance.
Ordinance -24-002, a proposed ordinance 2025-01, amending Chapter 72 regarding affordable housing.
Thank you, Ms. Shelley. Ms. Smith, this is you.
Yes, sir. So in July 2022, our county council approved an affordable housing initiative, the Path Forward Strategies for Success. It's a 5-year plan for affordable housing. It required some comprehensive plan and some zoning ordinance changes. You all saw the comprehensive plan changes last year, and the council approved them in January 2024 with your recommendation of approval. So we are now bringing back the ordinance, which will help implement the comprehensive plan. So the purpose of this ordinance is for us to maximize the cost and time savings for affordable housing projects by streamlining regulations and processes to increase and preserve the supply of affordable housing stock. And that came directly from that 5-year plan. There's basically two groups at the county that work together on affordable housing. One is community services. They do the affordable housing funding and the services, and growth management does permitting and entitlements. So we created a definition in the ordinance called a certified affordable housing project, and essentially that project has to be blessed by community services before we can offer any incentives to the developers. Any incentives that they get do require the developer to sign a restrictive covenant for the project to remain affordable for 20 years. That time frame can be negotiated. So some of the incentives and tools in the ordinance that will apply only to the certified affordable housing projects are a 10% deviation in lot size, lot width, dwelling unit size, setbacks, parking requirements, lot coverage, height, open space, landscaping, and other development standards administratively, but only up to 10%, and that would be done by our land development manager. And all of the certified affordable housing projects would be done through land development. They would not come through the planning process or need those public hearings. Impact fees may be deferred, but they are payable at the end of the affordability period. Permit fees, inspection fees, and application fees can be waived, and then they're forgiven in their entirety after the initial affordability period. We are offering density bonuses for some land uses. Low impact urban gets up to 5 dwelling units per acre. Urban low intensity gets up to 8. Urban medium intensity gets up to 14. And urban high gets up to 20. Those bonuses are not allowed in the NORMA, in the wetlands, in the RC zoning, or in the floodplain. The other thing that we're doing is we will have an affordable housing review team where we all come together and we have a 90-day expedited time frame to approve these projects. And again, that's done, it's run by our land development manager. So this is the most exciting thing for me anyway, when we worked through this. New accessory dwelling units. We understand accessory dwelling units are a good way to provide affordable housing and workforce housing. So we created a plan where impact fees may be deferred for newly constructed ADUs used for certified affordable housing if the applicant requests them, if the impact fees have been paid on the principal structure. The applicant will have to file a declaration of restrictive covenant with the clerk of the court stating that it will remain affordable for 20 years. And we will put a program in place for all of our affordable housing projects to check that and confirm that they do remain affordable. And they can continue that as well if they wanted to file a second covenant. They can do that as well, or they can remove it. If you remove it, you pay your impact fees. We also created an affordable housing priority overlay. If you can go to the map, Yo. And this is a tool. It's not a you must be inside of these lines. We use GIS to locate all the public transportation, employment centers, shopping, schools, and social services, the things that low-income people really need the most and need to be able to get to quickly. And we identified the areas that are on the map there, and we would look to site affordable housing in those areas first. It is not a requirement to be in those areas, but we're looking to that as a tool for guidance. So ultimately, those locations are chosen by our community services team. So we do recommend that you find ordinance 2025-01 consistent with the comp plan and forward it to the county council with a recommendation of approval.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Any questions for staff? Okay, I do have one. You said a negotiated time frame. Who negotiates that time frame?
Kelly, you want to cover that one? Or the question is, who negotiates the length of the covenant?
That would be between staff and the applicant, depending upon the nature of the affordable housing project. We have seen kind of like I want to say, single-family affordable housing that's just built on a random parcel, versus, you know, a multifamily complex, which is on a more permanent basis. So it really depends upon the type of affordable housing project, and ultimately it's a policy decision on and a balance between keeping your and ensuring your affordable housing inventory versus someone who buys an affordable housing single-family home, puts a lot of improvement on it, and then can't realize, you know, the lift in the value of that home that they have bought and they've purchased and they've improved and they've lived in, like anyone who buys a non-covenant and restricted. So that's kind of a balancing that kind of occurs, and there's inherent tension in that. So it's really a conversation between community services, the applicant, and staff, and you know, what is appropriate for the type of affordable housing project, and I just make it legal. So
Okay, so my line of questioning is, someone comes in and applies for an affordable housing unit development, and they get these density credits. And the negotiated time frame could be less than 20 years, is what you're telling me.
well, if it was a multifamily, we would probably go for the full 20, if not permanent, because they're essentially making a lot of apartments. So you wouldn't really get a density bonus for single family, which is where we would look at a lesser amount of time.
On residential, that doesn't get a density bonus? What you're telling me?
Yeah, if for example, if you have like single family affordable housing,
Right.
you know, potentially that can be for less than 20 years, even though I think our standard is 20 years. But it really depends upon the type of project. But I don't think we're going to be favored to reduce that amount of time, because our goals are to encourage and enhance the inventory of affordable housing.
And if I could follow up on that as well, just because we have all of these incentives doesn't mean that the developer gets all of the incentives. We look at each project individually and we craft an individual agreement for them. You all saw one last year. We brought in some Habitat homes over in Daytona Beach, and that was our test model for this. And in that case, we did 15 years. Feedback we've gotten since then is we want to strive for 20 years to make it worth the county's time. So that we let them go for 15 years. It was a negotiation, and we will try to keep 20 on the rest. Now, some of that, they did not ask for density bonuses. They did not have some. They asked for setback relief and things like that. So everyone has different requests.
I understand that, but in the ordinance itself, on page 7 of 19, it says that these density bonuses come in the way of, it says low impact urban to increase the densities from 5 dwellings, maximum density to 5 dwellings per unit. So what and to me, when you say dwelling units, that could cover single family.
Yes.
Yes.
And so they would get a density bonus, or could.
Yes.
And my point is, in the negotiated time frame, and what you just told me on the single family, could be a lot less than multiple family. And my question is, we go in, we get these density bonuses based on low-income housing, and within 5 years, that goes out the window. They pay their whatever they need to pay, but yet now the homes are built. You're not going to tear them down, and the density has been increased.
I don't think you're going to see any 5-year plans. We are striving for 20. We did allow Habitat to come in at 15, but that was a difficult and long discussion.
Yeah, well,
And then they do have to pay their impact fees. If it goes market, they will have to pay their impact fees. And just
But
to
the density's already there, that's my
Correct.
point.
And just to clarify on that density, we are putting that into the zoning ordinance. That's been in our comp plan probably for about 20 years. Nobody's used it. So we took an existing comp plan policy that's been in there forever and just applied that to the zoning ordinance.
That could be true, that it hasn't been used, but we're seeing a lot more requests for higher densities. Now, here, this is what when giving bonuses, it seems like we always go to the ear of density rather than setbacks or in that nature. And my concern is that we're going to be giving these density bonuses and we may not get our money's worth what the net benefit is going to be from it, you know. And that's my only concern there. So I'll get off of that right now. The other thing too is the ADUs. I'm like you, I'm in very much favor of that. What I have a problem with the ADUs and the way that it's in their current code is 50% of the existing structure, principal structure. And so pretty much you can have two homes side by side and in the same neighborhood, and maybe one is 500 to 1,000 square feet more. They can put in a bigger ADU than the house next door. And I think rather than the 50%, and this goes across the board on these ADUs, I think we should look at possibly, depending upon the zoning, depending upon the lot size, give a maximum size. Because just like we had one come before us today for a variance, and it was only, 18 square foot? And so, you know, that to me, and I know that may be done in the future administratively, but I don't see the why, if I've got a smaller house, same size property as my neighbor, but he can put a bigger ADU on his because he built a 3,000 square foot house and I built a 2,000 square foot house. You follow where I'm going with this?
Absolutely. And Kristen and I just had this conversation. While we have a good ADU ordinance, we've noticed we have to bring a lot of things to you all to look at. We want to go back and take a look at it again and see ways that we can improve it, and that is certainly something that we can consider.
And Mr. Chair, going back to the density provision, make a recommendation that if they get density, any type of density bonus, that they must comply with the full, the full period of the covenant.
Well, that's where I'm going with this, you know.
Perfectly fine.
Because if you could go in with and get a negotiated time frame, that's why I asked who decides the negotiated time frame, because as time goes on, you get different opinions on the county council. I don't know who's making these negotiated time frames. It could be staff. A lot of things change, and a lot of things are changing very fast. And I just don't want to get into a quagmire where you allow these density bonuses for a net gain and then turn around and don't realize that net gain because it didn't go as long as it should have went. They paid their impact fees, they paid everything, but now our density, you can't take that away. Unless there's a penalty there for doing so. And if we're going to give density bonuses, I'd like to see the maximum amount of time.
And so would staff. I think there's, like I said, that inherent tension between staff is always wanting to keep and enhance the inventory of affordable housing versus allowing someone to kind of reap the benefit of the improvements that they have in what they've in the dwelling that they've lived in for how many number of years. There's that inherent tension between an affordability period versus allowing someone to realize the value of their property.
Well, that's my point. And so because you take an individual that buys a home and realizes they're not going to live there that long, do a lot of improvements, and now that house doesn't become low income anymore. And so on the resale side of it. So I just want to make sure we don't get ourselves into a corner or box to where we're not reaping the benefit of the credits that we're giving. Okay? All right, that's my thoughts. Any other questions or thoughts?
No, I didn't want to step on your parade there, but that's, you're going on a roll. Let me ask real quick, as I'm kind of skimming through this as we're talking. The incentives, are they tied to a percentage of the overall project, or to the entire project has to be affordable housing?
Our community services department would have to deem it an affordable housing project, and then we could issue incentives. There's not a percentage of the development must be affordable.
So the entire project has to be affordable?
Correct.
Okay, that's where the 20 years comes in, and that's where you get the pushbacks from the developers. Okay, all right, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah, but you see where I'm going with that? You see where I'm going with this? I mean, you don't want to give incentives and turn around and not get a net benefit from it. That's the point I'm making.
Right.
I don't, either they do it or they don't. So, what do we need to make I don't know if everybody's in agreement with me, but that was my thoughts. How did the rest of the board feel?
Well, I think in light of what Mr. Soria said, that the staff has some questions and recommendations for changes, I feel like we need to defer this for continuance rather than,
That was for the ADUs.
I'm sorry.
That's for future ADUs. That wasn't for the low income side of it.
Right.
Am I right, Mr. Soria? Ms. Smith? That was strictly for the ADUs.
Guess I'm jumping forward to the whole thing.
Yeah, no, that was for the ADUs, not necessarily the,
My understanding of
low-income
the concern is, you have density bonus as an incentive. You don't really have, I'm not hearing any concerns about the other incentives such as setback or lot size amendments. It's basically, if density bonuses are requested as an incentive, the affordability period should be the maximum, because you're without any ability to deviate, from
if they're
that
getting
negotiation.
if they're getting the density bonuses, yes.
Yeah,
And the reason I say this is because, as we all know, that a lot of these bonuses and things go in hand with the lid, per se. And so, as far as lot size, who knows what's going to end up with all that, But that, to me, that doesn't necessarily entail these density bonuses that we're looking at in this ordinance.
That we're on the opposite side of the fence on that one. I like the ability to be able to negotiate that that timeline from 20 years to 15 years. Again, we're coming down into a situation of it still costs X to build individual units. And sometimes the density bonuses cover that, sometimes it doesn't. But I like the ability to be able to negotiate that timeline in exchange for potentially, some of these incentives back and forth, rather than be it hard tied to 20 years across the board. Which is how it's written now, if I'm not mistaken, right? You have the ability to, that's a negotiable time frame, the 20 years? Staff?
Yes.
Yes?
Sorry, we were discussing. Well, yeah, there's
That 20 years is negotiable, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Currently, as it's currently written?
Currently, it's
Yes.
negotiable on all the incentive
On all the
types.
incentives, got it.
So really the discussion is, do you want to reduce the discretion to negotiate based on one specific type of incentive type?
Right, okay. And that's what I'm saying. I would be opposed to that, as opposed to you and I on the different side of the table on that one, which is not unusual.
I respect your, I respect,
I know.
I respect your opinion.
There's definitely a respect issue going here back and forth, so it's reciprocal.
But, yeah, so when we send this forward to county council, these comments can be heard at that time?
Yes.
I mean, both sides.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think that's important.
And I will say that in practice, staff has argued for a longer period of affordability and guaranteed affordability. So, you know, especially if the incentive is a density bonus, you know, staff and community service will be arguing, no, we need a longer time. 20 years is a minimum. We're probably looking for higher because you're granting more units. So that's kind of,
That's why I said, who's doing the negotiating?
right.
Mm-hmm.
So from
And
from
that's-
talking with community
that's-
services, that's what our stance is right now. Push for as long of an affordability period as we can.
Okay. Well, I'm good forwarding it on to the county council, from what I saw most, with comments. And you, both sides,
Yep. With comments, I'm good with that.
yeah, with comments. So, but I can't make the motion, so I'll leave that up to someone else. Anyone else like to make a comment on this? Can I get a motion?
Before that, I have a question.
Yeah, Ms. Craig?
I'm unclear on how this works. If the incentives are given for the entire project, it's built out and the individual parcels are sold and people move in, and somebody makes modifications to their individual property that takes them out of qualifying for the incentives, what happens at that point?
It wouldn't be, if they modify the property, they're increasing the value of the property, but they cannot sell they cannot sell the property for the enhanced value. They are stuck to selling an affordable house, but they've put all of these improvements into their property. And there's an income qualification requirement that community services does as well. So, you know, it's kind of a two-pronged approach. The sale price needs to be within the affordability threshold, and the income qualification, the buyer, also needs to be within the affordability threshold.
May
So
I-
you're,
May I speak?
Yeah, Mr.
So
Costa.
that, therein lies, that's the quandary, isn't it? Is that
Yes.
we put together an affordable housing, family moves in, and they are basically de-incentivized of improving their property because they can't recoup any of that cost down the road, whether it's 20 years or 15 years, whatever the negotiated timeline is. So they went in and modified the property and put in a Mac Daddy kitchen and put in a swimming pool. All of a sudden, at turnaround time, they still got to sell it as if it was an entry level or an affordable housing
Yes.
complex, even though they put
Yes.
$40,000, $50,000 into the
yes,
house.
inherent tension.
That makes no, to me, makes no common sense.
Yes.
Yes.
But on the other side, you are preserving the inventory of affordable housing. That's.
Well, yeah, you're preserving something, all right. I'm not sure that's going to be affordable at that point, but, you know, if there's no incentive to improve, the affordable housing's become rundown, which is what we have today. Because there's no incentive to improve those properties, because there's no pride of ownership, if you will, at the end of the day.
Well, there's others, I'm talking strictly density.
I know, I know,
I'm
yeah,
not
I know.
talking-
I
I'm not
understand.
talking other incentives.
But
I'm
it all-
talking
it
strictly
all ties
density.
together, though.
Yeah, I understand that. But I'm talking density because, okay. You put low-income housing in let me give you a scenario.
Mhm.
You go out here and you put low-income housing in the middle of a high volume selling price
Mhm.
community.
Mhm.
That's not going to stay affordable housing
Oh, no, it's
very
going
long.
to, it's going to pull up, absolutely.
So why would I give the density credits to allow more units in that area?
Well, you're giving instead of using low income, I'm going to use the word affordable. We're giving the availability to families who otherwise could not afford that neighborhood to now move into an affordable housing project that's in that sector, and basically giving them an entry-level home, let's call it,
Yes.
with the ability to upgrade it to, as their stature in society changes, to upgrade it. But what we're telling them at the same point is, but when you turn around to go to sell it to realize those gains that you've gained in your real estate over the 10, 15 years, you can't. You have to sell it at what the affordable price is. So there's no incentive to maintain and/or improve your property. It's live it until it completely runs down and then, hey, move out, which is kind of what we have today. I like the pride of ownership. If you don't have any skin in the game, you will not take care of the property. And I say that from a standpoint of being a property manager for multiple single-family homes for various owners, is that if you don't incentivize the tenant to maintain and upkeep the property, either through rental reductions or rental, basically stagnation, not increasing the rents, they will destroy the house because it's not theirs. They're just temporarily passing through. And that's where I see this going.
But the next person in line to purchase affordable housing, if the inventory diminishes, then why are we giving incentives?
But you're making the assumption that the affordable will stop building affordable housing, period?
No, I'm not saying that.
So the cycle should continue. If the incentives stay in place, the cycle will continue. It should continue, theoretically.
Good argument.
So you've just reenacted the fundamental philosophical difference on affordable housing and, incentivizing it on the government end and assuring it versus, like, what Mr. Costa said, how do you
Let me put it this way. On affordable housing,
Yes.
we have government programs for financing that gives incentives of lower interest rates and that nature, lower payments per se. Those individuals who move into these low-income housing financing programs, if they sell within a certain time, that's their incentive to get it. If they sell within a certain time, they've got to go back and pay the interest.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, that's easy to take away, but density is not. And that was the only reason I wanted to have the maximum on density. I can see what Mr. Costa's saying. I see it. Believe me, I see it. But my point is, if you're going to get these density increases that you can't take away, there's no way to recoup that other than financial. And what are we doing then? Then we're taking all that money they put in the home and taking it away from them anyway. So if we're taking and going along that line, if we're going to give density, there's no way to take that density back, is what my point is as far as allowing a maximum negotiated time. That was the problem I had the only problem I had with it. I'm not a problem with giving incentives, but I just want to make sure that if we give the incentives and if they don't adhere to those incentives, that we got a way to recoup those incentives. If it falls within that time frame. Now, if you want to lower that time frame, so be it. But they have that on the lending side also. They give you an incentive, but they take it back, but there's no way to take density back. That was my point. And there's two different opinions, and like I said, I see where Mr. Costa's coming from, but I can see down the line where that next person in line is looking for a home, and now they've taken the low-income housing out, and there's no inventory. And that's what we have a problem with right now. That's why we're giving the incentives, is to create inventory for low-income housing. Affordable housing. I'll get it right.
If you're in agreement, I have no problem making a motion to move this forward as long as we add with commission comments
That's fine.
as a recommendation.
I'm good with that.
Okay?
I'm good with that.
All right, in that case, I'll make a motion on case O-24-002 that we forward to the county council with the recommendation of approval with an asterisk with review of the commission comments.
Second.
I've got a motion to forward
Told you to get it
to
right.
to send to the county council ordinance 024-002 regarding the affordable housing with a recommendation of approval with the asterisk of listening to the commission comments from Mr. Costa and the second from Ms. Shelley. Is that Is that good enough, Mr. Soria?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And any discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Any other public items?
No, sir.
Staff comments?
Yes, sir. The new PLDRC appointments were handled at the council meeting the other night. You do have 2 new members coming on, Emily Bush and Christopher Ayrson. This will unfortunately be Mr. Patterson's last meeting. Just want to thank him for his time on the commission, and the rest of you all have been reappointed as well. And that's it.
Any other staff items? Any other staff items?
Nope.
Comments? That was your comment? Okay, any commission comments?
I do. Go ahead.
Mr. Patterson?
It's been a wonderful ride, and I'm sorry that I'm, just running into a lot of crises in my life that I need to take care of. And, I've been on 4 boards, and I decided to reduce it down to 2. The Early Learning Coalition is my true love because of my background in early childhood education, and on the hospital board in New Smyrna, not in New Smyrna, not in Orange City. So, and that's where I'm late. I used to have fairly good organized meetings, but now it goes on and on and on and on, and here I am coming in at the last minute. But I love working with all of you. It's been a real fun ride, and thanks a lot. And thanks to the staff.
Pleasure's
They
been
got a
mine.
great staff
Thank you.
here.
Yep.
Thank you.
And without going in our history, I'll tell you that I've known Mr. Patterson now for about, 16 years, 15, 16 years?
More than that.
And, I've known him for longer than that, but got to be pretty close with him and friends with him about 16 years ago. Actually, we had a little bit of a political, that's how I got involved with Mr. Patterson. And I will say it's been an honor to serve on the same board with you. I take that as a privilege, and I will say that along that 15, 16 years, you've taught me a lot. Hopefully it shows, and it's just been a pleasure working with you, and I hate to see you go, but I think it's well-deserved, and thank you so much. Not only as a friend, but as a fellow board member, and where you're going to be missed. So that's my opinion on Mr. Patterson.
Thank you.
And the other comment that I had was we continued the one case to March the 20th. Mr. Patterson's not going to be here, and we're missing Mr. Brower's appointment for this previous year. So we're only going to have, if everyone shows, 5. Should we notify the applicants of before they show up? Or should we continue on with the 5-member board? Mr. Soria. I didn't think about it, or I'd recommended delaying it to the April meeting.
I think you can continue on with a 5-member board.
Okay.
You just offer the applicants just another opportunity. You've preserved notice at the very least. So, it's unfortunately anyone who shows up, will at the very beginning of the meeting needs to make a decision of whether or not they want to proceed with the current board makeup. But there shouldn't be any additional expense for that meeting because you have preserved the meeting notices and you've continued it to the next meeting.
Okay, Mr. Soria. Okay, any other commission comments?
Yep.
I have
Sir.
a comment.
Go ahead, Ms. Craig.
Question. I find it very difficult, I hate to whine about this, but not having the printed materials in advance is a lot more difficult to intelligently consider and work on research for this. So I would like to put, if it's not set in stone, I personally would prefer to get a printed copy.
Second of that. If I can piggyback on that one, I did have a conversation with Trish after this came out. We bantered back and forth on it. I definitely like the paper copy in advance. Printing it was not a problem, especially at 5 o'clock last night, and that goes to my second point. So the email on February 7th said that I'd be getting an email by the following Wednesday that our package was ready. I did not get that email, but I did get one last night at 4:45 that said we had a new agenda, but in between I did not. So I don't know if I'm the only one that got missed or it was
No,
just a
you're the
glitch.
second person that said that, and when the first person said it, we went and checked our emails, and the email was there, so there must have been an issue with our server.
Okay.
So we'll go back and we'll investigate
Yeah.
that some more.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was easy to find, but it was just a point that I got other things on my mind. It's not the latest thing. And then lastly, what are the cute little flags for?
Those flags are compliments of our planning director. She was at a council meeting a few months back and got great pleasure in watching Paolo have to jump up 100 times and say, ex parte, ex parte. So she thought it would be cute to give all of the different commissions and councils little flags as a joke to wave if they so choose. But it's not a requirement. Just
Okay.
gag gift.
So we can leave the gag gift for the next person, right?
Yes, you may.
I wasn't sure if that was yeah, okay. Very good.
I was going to use it as a reminder. Just wave the flags from the back instead of having to jump up and say anything.
Did,
Okay, Ms. Smith, I know I also had this discussion with you as far as the paper forms. As you can see, we know what Stoney's opinion is on it. And for the majority here, would like to have it. So what do we need to do to move forward to get those paper back? And I would like, well, of course, some of them live on the opposite side of the county, but I know one of the issues is getting it to us. But is there a way that we could possibly pick it up if that's a problem?
So this is, and I mean this in all honesty, this is part of our green initiative. We're moving into an electronic world. Some people like paper. I like paper, but what we're saying is if you'd like paper, go ahead and print it and bring it, and then that still reduces the amount of paper we're printing. And then one of the, we talked about bantering, one of the comments was, well, I don't want to use my ink. You all do have a $200 a month stipend that you could use for ink, you can use for mileage, so you do have that. The county is paying for that for you. It's just you pushing the button if you so choose. If that's not a viable option, or using a pad or a laptop is not an option for you, then I would suggest that you all make a motion and to write a letter, and I'll bring that letter expressing your concerns, and I'll bring that letter to my bosses, and we'll let them make that policy decision. But we are getting great pressure, and you are the last board that is paper. Every other board has gone electronic.
I understand that, and my point, and I'll reiterate my point that I spoke with you on the phone, is I know we're getting a stipend, but that stipend hasn't increased in, I know, 20 years. And
What's that?
so-
It's
Pardon?
like, it's from 1990 something.
Well,
Yeah.
it
So it's
equates
been
to
a while
about
since that's
300
been
miles.
increased. And as it is right now, I don't know for each individual, but my stipend does not cover my expenses now.
Yep.
I haven't asked for an increase because I know there's other boards that don't get that. But if they wish for us to do our own printing, I would like a request to increase their stipend. And I know the council will not, and I mentioned the fact of county-issued laptops or pads, but the problem with that is when you're out in the field, a lot of times you don't get that reception there to go back and research. You do have to print it out. And as far as the printing goes, we have had some very big packets at times. So it would be costly. It costs us a lot more to print it at home than what it does for the staff to print it at the council level, at the county level. And if we were to get to a private printer, it even goes up from there. So depending upon each one of us, I don't think it's too you know, I don't think we're getting out of line by asking that we at least get a paper copy. And as far as the other boards, I don't know how extensive they actually get out into the field and go from place to place. We could have a line, well, you know, I mean, our agenda sometimes is as much as 15, and you start traveling around Volusia County and looking at these sites. Granted, a lot of us don't do that, or we would depend on our other members in their district to do that. But a lot of times we do, especially if it's something that concerns us. There's been a lot of times I've been over to New Smyrna and looked at those properties and see, just because their application states and pictures state one thing, but when you actually physically put eyes on it, a lot of times it's a big difference. And I highly recommend anything that is, you think may be borderline for any of the members to take a ride out and take a look at it.
So again, what I would suggest is for you all to take a vote on whether the chair wants to transmit a letter. We can draft up a letter for you to sign, and then we'll bring that back and see how they respond.
Yeah, I would like to be drafted to me personally, I like to be drafted as the board members unanimously would like to have that. And the only other one, because Mr. Patterson's leaving, it would be Stoney, and I think he expressed that, because I think I saw an email that he sent back to you expressing that.
Yep.
So that's that.
I'll make a motion that we draft that the chair draft that letter.
Did the chair draft it?
Yeah. Or the staff drafted, draft it for the chair, how's that?
I don't even know who it's being sent to.
God and country.
The only other recommendation is if there's a problem that we could, each one of us was appointed by a county councilman, and the person that appointed you, you can reach out to them.
Absolutely.
To try to get this resolved. I don't know if it needs to go that far. Does it need to go that far, or can we do it?
Let us try this. We are simply staff responding to our directives.
I understand. No, we don't,
We're in the middle of it.
Nobody's holding it, you know, personally, believe me. I mean, I get it. But this has been bounced around for quite a while now. It started back during COVID, believe it or not, but that's when it started.
Mr. Chair?
So, yes, sir.
We all should just go marching down to the staff director and just lynch him.
Yeah, there we go. Just walk in there and say.
He's on medical leave right now, so we're safe.
They're on leave right now, is that what you said? Did I hear correctly? You said the new members won't be till April, is that right?
Yes, sir. Your terms end at the end of March.
Okay, got it. All right.
Okay. Any other commission comments? Press and citizen comments. This meeting is adjourned.